I think he's going to be a consistent 25, 30 plus home run guy. I mean, if you see this guy take BP when he's healthy, there's a ton of bat speed.
Okay, Twins fans, Walker Jenkins is the top prospect in the organization, according to Baseball America. We have Ben Badler here. We have Carlos Collazo here. Let's talk it out. This is your prospect profile on Walker Jenkins. Feels like we were talking about his name in draft runnings not too long ago, Carlos, but where are we at with him as a prospect?
We're in a great spot with him. Not only is he the top prospect in the system, I think he's a favorite on the staff to maybe be the top prospect in baseball a year from now. We've got him 5 entering the year. He's exceptionally well-rounded. He's very young. He's extremely tooled up. I think the only question mark maybe that we've got with a guy like Walker Jenkins, and maybe this also is just a frequent question mark with Twins players and Twins prospects, is just the injury questions. He's a player who's dealt with injuries going back to his draft year. The summer before his senior spring, he had a hamate injury that limited him. This past season, he was limited by a hamstring injury. So if we can just get him healthy and keep him on the field, I think we're talking about a 5-tool player who's got above average or better tools across the board. He always stood out as one of the best pure hitters in his class, at a really strong 2023 high school class where he was kind of battling it out with Max Clark to be the top ranked high school player in that class. And then his power was a separator for him as well. We haven't seen the raw power for him or the in-game power for him so far in pro ball, but I'm extremely confident that he's going to be a guy who has a chance to hit for 30 or more home runs down the line as well. He hits the ball incredibly hard. He has minimized his strikeouts at a rate that I don't even think I was expecting him to do. I thought he was going to be a plus hitter with maybe a few more strikeouts than he's shown, but he makes a ton of contact against every pitch type. He's his swing from the left side is one of the more aesthetically pleasing swings that I've seen. He can run fairly well for his size. Most people seem to think he's going to be a long-term corner outfielder where he has a chance to be a plus defender. I actually think he runs well enough that I'd be curious to see him just continue playing center field. And I also am pretty high on his arm. I think he's shown a plus arm in the past, and I'd expect him to have an above average arm moving forward. So I guess, Ben, what's your question mark with Walker Jenkins outside of the injury issues? Because it's a pretty well-rounded player for me.
How fast can we get him up? I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I think he checks pretty much every box you're looking for in a young outfielder. I mean, he's 6'3". He's strong. He's athletic, powerful, and it's really a great blend of power, explosiveness, and at the same time, like you were saying, Carlos, he makes it look so free and easy in the batter's box, right? Like sometimes you see guys who are big and strong and physical, and they got kind of a stiffer swing, and it's power overhead, and you have some question marks about how it's going to work against more advanced pitching. But he has a ton of adjustability to his swing. He makes a lot of contact. He makes really good swing decisions because he recognizes spin. He controls his at-bats extremely well, and he does have huge power too. Now, maybe if you're just looking at the numbers on paper last year, you might not get a full sense of his power because he had a couple leg injuries, and I think that durability. I know Twins fans don't want to have another prospect who may have a history of injuries, but it's only 1 year with him. I wouldn't call him injury prone yet. But when he was, he missed time last year with the leg injuries, and when he was back on the field, it seemed like it still had an impact on him in terms of his ability to really get his whole body and really his lower half fully into his swing to drive the ball the way that he's fully capable of when he is 100% healthy. But I mean, if everything clicks, and I think it will with him, I mean, I agree. I mean, high OBPs, 30 plus home runs. And yeah, maybe it's more right field than center field, but I agree. I'd give him as much rope as possible to stay out there in center field. And if not, okay, fine. You have maybe an above average defender in right field who can also hit in the middle of your lineup one day.
Okay, and I know you keep mentioning obviously there's injury concerns, just as much with many other players, but it's sounding to me, Carlos, like the floor is pretty high here too, right? Sometimes we're talking about a guy who, might have one thing that's so off that it could prevent him from really being a solid big league regular. Aside from health, would you say it's hard to see him not being at least a regular contributor in the big leagues? It's hard to totally project a superstar.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, he still is very young. He still hasn't really been tested at the upper levels of the minors at an exceptional rate. So we'll see what happens there. But in terms of how we're thinking about him as a hitter, how me and Ben have described him as a hitter, we'd be very surprised if he struggled at those levels. I mean, it's a chance for a double plus hit tool. We're talking about how we're bullish on the power, despite not maybe seeing the home run totals in the minors so far. Just knowing the exit velocities he's capable of, seeing the balls that he hit as a high schooler with wood bats. I think the power is going to come. I think we tend to maybe get overly critical of power output for young players, and especially for players who have the sort of physicality and bat speed and pure hitting chops that Walker Jenkins does. That power is just going to come naturally. And hopefully we can get that lower half figured out and healthy. But yeah, he's just going to impact the game in so many ways. He's not a true burner, so maybe he's not going to be a huge stolen base guy, but he's going to add value on the bases. He's going to be a good defender wherever he winds up in the outfield. So I do think that there is a solid floor here. That's why we have him so high. That's why he was so well regarded in his class. If he's not hitting for average, he's going to be taking his walks. He's going to have strength to miss hit balls. Like, they're just, it's hard for me to see Walker Jenkins not panning out in some capacity. I'm just super convicted in the hitting ability and the all around profile.
Yeah, I really have no questions about the power with him. I think he's going to be a consistent 25, 30 plus home run guy. I mean, if you see this guy take BP when he's healthy, there's a ton of bat speed. He gets the ball airborne naturally with the way his swing path works. He's consistently on the barrel, and I think he has huge raw power. So that's not really a question for me. And like you said, Scott, I mean, it's hard to talk about a floor necessarily with a player who's mostly been at the A ball level already, but at the same time, like, it's hard to see just from a hitting perspective what is going to go wrong with him, or like what wouldn't translate, what wouldn't work with him at higher levels, because he is such an advanced pure hitter with his feel for the barrel, with his ability to control his at bats and manage the strike zone. So it's a really appealing combination of huge upside, but also, again, relative for a 19, soon to be 20-year-old prospect who's only been in the lower levels, a good balance too of floor as well. I mean, Carlos said earlier he could be the number one prospect in baseball next year. I mean, I think if he goes out and he's dominating this year, I think we might have him at some point the number one on one of our midseason lists this year.
Wow. All right, trivia question then on our way out, because this will make Twins fans appreciative for the moment. What happened in 2023 for the first time in our game's history? Do you guys know that kind of led to this happening? It's a rule change.
Oh, is this the
Oh,
lottery?
is this the first lottery? Yeah.
Do you know how many picks they jumped? So the Twins,
yeah.
if you just took their
Almost
record,
10, like 7?
eight
Almost
picks,
10, right? Yeah.
8 picks. So if you just took their record, they would have been 8 picks later. They would not have had Walker Jenkins. So thank you
And
to the collective bargaining agreement.
There was also a huge tier break in that class. We had 5 very clear top of the class players. So picking from 5 to 6 that year is much bigger difference than 4 or 5. So that's a huge one.
Exactly. I remember the big storyline was, wow, look who jumped in and look how much of a difference it is. And it could change the future of a franchise that way. So I'm a big fan of the draft lottery, of course. Hey, for more of these, you can check them out team by team, top prospect in the organization. Just hit up the Baseball America YouTube channel if you're listening, if you're watching right now. And you can also check them out wherever you get your podcasts.